Arrival at Camp Scott on June 12, 1977, the excitement was palpable. Parents waved goodbye to their daughters, loaded with sleeping bags, backpacks, and notebooks ready to record their camp adventures. Lori, the youngest in her family, had been thrilled about her first camping trip. Michelle, a spirited girl with a knack for making friends, had been bubbling with anticipation. Denise, initially reluctant to go, was encouraged by her mother to embrace the experience. That afternoon, the girls were assigned to Tent 8 in the Kiowa unit, one of the furthest from the counselor's tent. The camp layout was picturesque but spread out, leaving some tents relatively isolated. Tent 8, nestled near the edge of the woods, seemed peaceful in the fading sunlight. As darkness fell, the camp buzzed with activity, girls whispering secrets, counselors organizing last-minute details, and the occasional burst of laughter echoing through the trees. None of them knew the shadows lurking beyond the tree line. The night of terror, sometime after midnight, a storm rolled in. Raindrops pelted the canvas tents, and the once lively camp quieted under the drumming of the rain. The three girls in Tent 8 wrote in their diaries by flashlight, detailing their first impressions of camp. Around this time, some campers reported hearing strange noises, low moans and rustling in the nearby woods. In the early hours of June 13, those faint disturbances escalated into a nightmare. At dawn, a camp counselor discovered a horrifying scene. Lori, Michelle, and Denise's lifeless bodies were found about 150 yards from their tent, partially concealed in the underbrush. The girls had been brutally attacked. Their sleeping bags bore the gruesome evidence of the violence inflicted upon them. The camp was immediately evacuated, and the girls' death sent shockwaves through the community. Questions swirled: who could commit such a heinous act, and why? The investigation begins. Law enforcement descended on Camp Scott. The crime scene was meticulously combed for evidence, but the brutality of the attack made the process harrowing. Investigators found a flashlight with a partial fingerprint, shoe prints near the bodies, and a roll of duct tape matching the bindings used on the girls. Adding to the mystery, a troubling detail emerged. 2 months before the murders, a camp counselor had discovered a note in a cabin during a training session. The note warned that 3 campers would be killed. It was dismissed as a prank, a decision that would haunt the camp organizers forever. Authorities quickly zeroed in on a suspect, Gene Leroy Hart, a local man with a troubled past. Hart had previously escaped from prison, where he was serving time for kidnapping and raping 2 women. He was also a skilled woodsman, well acquainted with the dense forests surrounding Camp Scott. The hunt for Gene Leroy Hart. The search for Hart became one of the most intense manhunts in Oklahoma history. For 10 months, law enforcement scoured the rugged terrain, often hampered by dense foliage and treacherous conditions. Hart had a network of supporters in the Cherokee community who believed he was being framed, making the search even more complicated. In April 1978, Hart was finally apprehended in a remote cabin deep in the woods. His capture brought relief to some but skepticism to others. Many in the community doubted his guilt, citing a lack of concrete evidence tying him to the murders. The trial of Gene Leroy Hart. Hart's trial began in 1979, attracting national attention. The prosecution presented the physical evidence, including items found near the crime scene and a controversial DNA test that suggested a 1 in 7,000 chance the semen found at the scene came from someone other than Hart. The defense countered with arguments about the mishandling of evidence and pointed to the absence of direct witnesses linking Hart to the crime. The community's division was palpable, with some viewing Hart as a scapegoat and others demanding justice for the 3 girls. After deliberating for several hours, the jury delivered its verdict, not guilty. The decision shocked many, leaving the case unsolved and the families of Lori, Denise, and Michelle without closure. Lingering questions and unfinished justice. Despite his acquittal, Hart remained in custody, serving time for his previous crimes. He died of a heart attack in 1979 while incarcerated, taking any secrets he may have held to his grave. The Oklahoma Girl Scout murders remain one of the most chilling unsolved cases in American history. Advances in forensic technology have since provided new insights. In 2022, modern DNA testing reportedly suggested a high likelihood of Hart's involvement. However, no definitive answers have been publicly confirmed, and the case officially remains cold. For the families of Lori, Denise, and Michelle, the pain endures. The memory of their daughters has been preserved in acts of remembrance, including scholarships and memorials established in their names. The legacy of Camp Scott never reopened. The once vibrant site now lies abandoned, overtaken by nature, its silence a haunting reminder of the tragedy. The events of that summer continue to cast a long shadow over Mayes County, a community that has struggled to reconcile with its past. The story of the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fragility of innocence and the enduring quest for justice. Though decades have passed, the memory of Lori, Denise, and Michelle lives on, a solemn tribute to lives cut tragically short and the resilience of those who refuse to let them be forgotten.